What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more Cyndi Lauper, and we're returning to the 2001 album, Shine. Thank you for Seb and all the others who clarified the nature of this album and the way it was released initially with a smaller track list and then later with a more complete or full one. And yes, the second tune is It's Hard to Be Me, which I feel like is a sentiment that more or less everybody has at one time or another. Now, the degree and the frequency with which people might feel that and or the level of their sense of injustice might vary person to person, psychology to psychology. But the idea that the world is particularly challenging to you, whether that's personally, professionally, artistically, some combination thereof, I think is an experience that most people have at some times in their life. And so I feel like there's an immediate accessibility to the feeling, and perhaps some people will feel it particularly acutely, but I wonder if this is on some level autobiographical. I wonder if it's a narrative with, let's say, a created character, even if, of course, Cyndi, like almost anyone else, can access those feelings and understand what it's like to feel like the world is challenging to you. Now, given what folks have said about her history, the way some albums were promoted in a certain way, whether in a way that was not particularly helpful to Cyndi, or the way that the production of her albums was done, I feel like maybe she, more than other artists, would be justified for expressing the idea that it's not easy to be Cyndi Lauper. So I wonder the scale, the scope, and or the level of real life / fictional or fictitious narrative this might feature. So I'll see what I can catch on the first listen. This is Cyndi Lauper. The track is It's Hard to Be Me, and it's from her 2001 album Shine. Oh!
I am up here alone on my glamorous throne. Want to thank all you people down there. I was once an unknown like you, but I've grown. I have so much I'm hoping to share. It's
Wow, so there's so much to say here. I'll try to start with the sonics. Number one, there's still an electronic dimension to this, but it feels more or less like a pop punk track. Now, with the keyboard sounds, it actually reminds me a bit of Matt and Kim, who weren't quite started by this time, but in a few years after this would get going, because they have a like synth pop keyboard meets punk rock type of feel to their music. But yes, so there's a bit of a pop punk vibe, but there's still some of that 80s keyboard sound, and perhaps given the way that Sisters of Avalon was very far away from some of her early stuff, this feels, again, sort of like a coming home, but still updated, still evolved. And I love the guitars, like some really, rockin' guitars. It feels kind of like her version of a Green Day tune, which I don't say as an insult. Again, like, I listen to punk rock that is perhaps a bit more, let's say, underground than Green Day, but I do enjoy their first couple albums in particular. So it feels like if you mixed early Green Day with an 80s style Cyndi Lauper synth pop tune, I enjoy her vocals, like, in general, or like in the early part of the track already. Then about halfway through, maybe a little bit past that, we get that really long extension for the first time, and then she just really lets it fly in the latter stages, not only doing another such extension, but just belting, but in a bit of a punk sort of mode, and just with her characteristic vocal power. And yeah, I feel like the lyrics are both self-deprecating. It made me think of that line in Amadeus that, Salieri speaks for mediocrities everywhere. But then there's like some irony, there's some humor. She seems to be like, oh, for you people down there in your regular size shoes, you don't know how hard it is to be for me up on this throne and so on. But I feel like it's a lot tongue-in-cheek, like she's being funny about it. And maybe it's even partly autobiographical, but maybe even taking shots at other artists who perhaps sing in that way, that like, oh man, it's so hard to be me and so on, despite being very successful and popular and, making lots of money through their art and so on. So it feels like it's maybe functioning on multiple levels, that there's a bit of self-deprecation, that, she hasn't had a career like some other pop artist who, might be lumped in with her, and yet at the same time it sounds like she's speaking in a way there's a bit of a wink to it, that the every man or every woman would, feel like, well, yeah, okay, maybe it's hard to be you, but like, we're down here, we're not making a whole lot of money, we don't have, photographs where we look fantastic and beautiful and so on, that are, popular and part of our, public image. So again, it feels like there's a bit of sarcasm, it feels like there's a bit of self-deprecation, it feels like there's a bit of, critique maybe in other directions. So it feels like there's a lot going on lyrically, and I'm not sure which of those angles is maybe the most prominent of the lyrical themes, but either way, I love the tune, absolutely fantastic. We're only 2 tracks in, and I'm really enjoying this, so once again, big shout out to Seb for sharing this and much, much else. I'm curious to hear what people have to think of this one. Let me know, and Luca and I will see you next time. Peace.